So first, let's look at the structure and the arrangement here. So we've got a little intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and chorus. That's your typical pop structure. And I also tried to incorporate the 8-bar rule. So every 8 bars, you want to be changing something up, or even every 4 bars here. So we got 4 bars here, 4 bars here. Really something's changing every 4 bars in this song. Right, so you got 4 bars here, and then boom, bringing in this little arp here, which is what this is. And then another 4 bars, bringing in some leads. But beyond that, it also just applies to like individual tracks as well. So for example, these chords here, right, you want to change something up every basically 3 or every 8 bars, right? So here's 8 bars right here. These chords repeat. Cool. But then for the final time, it's basically the same pattern. I didn't like change the chords or anything, but I leave out the last chord in that progression. That drops out to help with the transition there. So again, something is changing. The arp here, nothing's changing. I could have maybe changed the arp up, but sometimes less is more as well, but it's kind of just a good rule of thumb. And I've got this like arp pluck all the way through here. So it looks like it's kind of the same thing all the way through, but that's still changing over time with some automation. So we can see we got a filter opening up, and then it closes again and opens back up. So it's adding some dynamics there to the arrangement. Then we got the bridge here. This is a very different section. I even added in some like hip hop style drums and some rap. I've never really done that before, so it probably sounds awful. I will try and find someone else to rap it. But it seemed to fit with the song, and I felt like doing something different. And plus, this is a synth pop song, so it's kind of a trying to make it modern, and hip hop is basically in everything since it's like the most popular genre. So I tried to include some of that here in this song. And then we just have the final chorus where it repeats, and it's not exactly the same. It kind of drops in energy, so it's like a stripped version of the chorus, and then it builds up. And so we'll hear all this at the end. But now let's look at the actual individual elements, individual instruments. And so getting started here, we are going to start off with the drums. And what was very common in 80s synth pop was drum machines, especially the Lindrum machine. And so if you're using Logic, you can find a Lindrum kit right here under electronic drum kit, and you scroll down to Lindrum. Maybe if you're not using Logic, maybe your DAW has something like this, some kind of a vintage drum machine kit. You can use that. If not, then you can just actually use my free 80s drum sample pack. You can click in the description to get that, or you can go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/starter pack, and you can get a bunch of 80s drum samples that you can import right into your project for free. So if you're using the Lindrum, it sounds sort of like this. And that's with no processing whatsoever. It's just dry drums right out of the stock kit here. Or you can use my sample pack. There's a bunch of samples in here, multiple kicks, multiple snares, and so on. So I just loaded a few of them into here, and it sounds like this. And a big part of this as well is getting that gated reverb sound on your snare drum. And so to set this up is really simple. So here's my sample pack. Here's the snare drum right here. And so we're just going to send this to a bus. So I use bus 34 here and just named it gated reverb right here, as you can see. And then I just added a big reverb to it. In this case, I just used a stock reverb here in Logic, and I used snare plate. So I used a big plate reverb. You can see the length is pretty big, size is big, and I have it all the way wet. And so we'll hear what it sounds like now. Right, and we dial up how much the reverb we want. Really cool sound, makes for a really big snare. The downside with a big reverb like that is it's going to bleed over into your next snare hit, and it just creates a big kind of cloudy, muddy mess over your mix as a whole. So to deal with that, we throw a gate on, So here's a noise gate. This is a stock noise gate here in Logic, so you can use whatever you have in your DAW. And these are the settings we dialed in. I have 0 attack, hold for about 110 milliseconds. Release, you can do anywhere from like 150 to like 300 is good. Just set the preference, really, whatever you want for your song will work. And then set the threshold so that it's actually reducing to taste. And then we want to actually sidechain this to itself. So I did bus 34, which is this bus that it's on. So therefore it is going to be reacting to our reverb here. So now with this gate on, we'll hear the difference. So you can hear that reverb being abruptly cut off. So maybe we can turn down the volume here of our snare. If you don't want it as loud, or we can keep the dry a little bit louder and just reduce how much of the reverb we're getting. So it really comes down to taste and what you want, but that is essentially what you want for your drums here. And then pattern-wise, again, whatever you want to do, maybe you can listen to some of your favorite 80s synth pop songs and maybe model your drums on one of those songs. But a very common pattern here is just a 4 on the floor kick with a snare hitting on the 2 and the 4 here, and then some kind of hi-hat pattern mixed in there. So this is a really common pattern here, very simple pattern that you can use. That's using a lot of synth pop and synthwave style of music. So that's what I got going on here. But I decided not to use these just for the sake of speed, not having to do a whole lot of mixing. I use some drums by UJam. One is called Beatmaker Vice. So these are like 80s synth pop drums already assembled here in this one plugin with the mixing and everything already done for you, basically. And it has really awesome sound. So if we listen to this, you know, it already sounds really good, but it wasn't sounding pop enough for me, not modern enough. It's still sounding kind of vintage. And so I layered it with another drum kit here by UJam called Candy. This is more for making pop style drums, but I'm using the nostalgia kit. We'll hear what this sounds like. I did full reviews on both of these plugins, which I'll have these linked in the description below. And I am an affiliate for these plugins, just so you know. But that also means you can get a discount if you want to get these plugins. So just click the links below or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/UJam to get these plugins. And then just use my code OAA-20 at checkout to get 20% off. And then on both of these kits, I threw on a little bit of EQ and compression using the British channel here. I did a full tutorial on how I like to use this on my drums. So I'll go ahead and link that in the description below as well. And I threw on this tube channel saturation. It has a little bit of EQ as well and compression on both of these just to add a little extra saturation. So then together, these sound like so. Cool. And then when I mix it, it probably would be best to separate these out into separate channels, each of these drum sounds, which I could do. But the nice thing about these plugins is they already sound mixed because they have a mix tool here and they're already applying processing here. So it sounds really good as is. And so that's what I had for the verse. And then I did something different here than what I normally do. We'll listen to this little section here in the pre-chorus. Kind of like changed up the timing there a little bit, like had a little skippy part. And so the way I did that, I just thought that was kind of a cool way of like, kind of a pattern interrupt, kind of waking you up right before the chorus. And so I played the lead part first. I had these leads doing this cool pattern here. And so I'm like, well, why don't I just delete everything, delete the chords, delete the bass, pads, everything, drums, and then just replace them with the exact same pattern. So I have the bass doing the same pattern here. And the same thing with the drums with the kick, snare, and toms following that same pattern. I thought that was a cool little transition there. All right, with the drums done, let's move on to the bass here. And we start out with the bass right here in the beginning in the intro. And I'm using a couple different presets here from Synth Control's Synth Pop Serum preset pack. Big shout out to Synth Control for giving these to me for free to try out. He has so many awesome Serum presets for all kinds of electronic and retro electronic music. I highly recommend you check those out. I'll just show you like some samples here. They sound really awesome. So right now I'm using bass Madonna here from the Synth Pop pack. But right here, we can see all different kinds of basses in here. We can try a couple of these out. And I'm opening the filter here. I'm also using Pilot. Pretty cool. So I don't know if this is a bass that's based on songs by Madonna, but it sounds really good. So we'll have that in here, and then I also layering it with bass Pilot. So hear that on its own. It's kind of higher and pluckier, and then the Madonna is a little deeper, so then together. Just create some more interesting, more texture to the bass with that layer going on there. And then it's just following the root note of the chords here. So pretty simple. Pretty cool. And then again, we already talked about the bass and the pre-chorus, and then we get to the chorus. And I wanted to make more of a bouncy, fun, upbeat type of chorus here. The song is called Candy Cassettes, so it seemed like I wanted it to be kind of sugary, sweet pop kind of song with an 80s feel to it. This is a weird song, I'll just say that much. And so I'm using this like kind of a slap sounding digital bass here using OBXD. This was free at one point in time. I've been told this is no longer free, but I'm using this preset here. It sounds pretty awesome. Kind of bouncing around there, and I'm layering it with Supersonic, which is from Synth Control's Synth Pop preset pack. Pretty cool. And I'm using basically some form of magma tubes by Waves on everything on this song, just to add some nice warm tube saturation. Oh, we have the bridge here. It's a little different. Yeah, that's really different, isn't it? I'm using like this hip hop style of drum here from UJam, their Beatmaker Glory here. Beatmaker Glory. They have like modern hip hop style drums in here. So if I unmute these. And as you can hear, I've got some bit crushing across all of these. So what I'm doing here is I'm routing my drums and my bass to this rhythm bus here. And on that, I have some bit crushing automating. So starting at downsampled 24 times, and it's going slowly reducing the downsampling. And then I also have some drive here that's starting at 4 dB and then going down to 0. So it's kind of cool. I'll go ahead and put the rest of the instruments in just so you can get the full context. And of course, then the bass goes to 16th notes here, playing the chords here. So it's really fast paced. I just like that add that bit crushing effect in there, so it doesn't sound so hip hop-ish. It still sounds digital, retro-ish. So that's what I did there, and I think that's about it. The song isn't really mixed yet, but yeah, so I don't really have anything on these tracks besides from a little bit of saturation. I don't have. I got a little bit of stuff on the drum bus here, so I've got a little bit of compression. And then I've got a little bit of EQ as well. Just adds a little bit more, some edge here, and then also boosting those lows. And then pads here, I'm actually using a free synth here. Bold as Brass Synth, one of my top 7 favorite free synths plugins for creating synthwave music. I have a whole video about all these. I'll link that in the description below. And so we'll take a listen to this. Pretty nice. And then the chords here, I did something interesting here where I just played the C and the G all the way through. And then I just moved one note around in the scale, which is the key of C, everyone's favorite key. And that's it all the way through. Pretty simple. But that's also kind of a staple of synthwave music or synth pop music, is a lot of the chords, they keep all the notes close together. They're not really moving up and down a whole lot. They're kind of close together. I know, like with EDM, you see people make those really big stacks of chords, which you can still add in more notes if you wanted to make it more lush, but they're generally not scaling like multiple octaves. They're all kind of in the same range there. And then to make it just a little bit more lush, I added in a sound here from Syntronic 2, which is one of my favorite plugins here for creating vintage retro electronic music. So Bring You Hope preset here, which is from the DCOX SYNTHWAVE here. So you can see all these vintage synths in here. And the DCOX is based on the Yamaha DX7, perhaps another Yamaha too, I can't remember. But this is really big. Yamaha DX7, that was very big in 80s synth pop music. So if you want to emulate that, use a lot of sounds from the DX7. There's a free version out there called Dext, or DX'd, I think that might be how it's pronounced because it's the Yamaha DX7. I'll link to that in the description below. It's also one of my favorite free plugins for creating synthwave, but I'm using Syntronic here because it sounds really lush and awesome. I'm doing a little bit more here. I'm using Unison's MIDI chord preset pack here. I think I may have moved the notes around a tad, maybe. I think this was down here. I may have moved this up a bit. Because this is something that's also common with synthwave chords, is you'll have a lot of notes like this continue all the way through all the chords. So we got that going on here. And so typically what you want to do is you just take the middle note in your triad, you move it up and down, and that's how you can create some great lush, dreamy synth pop or synthwave style chords. So that's what I did for the verse, and that's pretty much it. Bridge, I think I just used another preset or another MIDI progression here from the Unison pack. I'll have that linked below. So that makes it really easy to write when you're using just MIDI chords, chord packs. I know a lot of people frown on this, but hey, the faster you can go, the better. So there's nothing wrong with using presets, using MIDI chord packs. All the best artists out there, all the most popular artists out there, they do the same. They use presets, they use chord packs and so on. So it's just really just shorthand. It's just a way of speeding up your workflow. And then just got some, again, more magma tubes here by Waves. Just adding a little bit of saturation. Those are the pads. Then we have the ARP here. And so for this, I think since I knew this was in the key of C, I kind of used the C note as kind of my foundation here. And then I was kind of just playing other notes in the scale, going in a descending progression here, going down to C. And so that sounds like this. And then this pattern I learned from Time Cop 1983. It's really cool, where you kind of start lower. The bottom of your ARP, I guess we'll call it, is saying mostly the same, but then your top note of your pattern is slowly increasing, going up the scale over time here. So that's what I tried to mimic here. Then for the chorus here, I just played this on the keyboard, just kind of played with what I felt fit to what the rest of the track was doing. It's really an ARP, it's more just kind of a bouncy synth pluck. And I've got a lot more processing on these plucks here. I've got a little bit of bit crushing here for some digital saturation. I mentioned opening the filter. I like to use Wave's one knob filter. This makes it really easy to add and apply filters. I'm using the comeback kit. I'm using a dotted half note delay here with some tape saturation and other effects. And I'm also filtering the highs and the lows. With Intel Reverb, this is a free reverb, which is really awesome. I love this. I use this in basically every track. Really awesome. And so we'll listen to this without any of these effects in, and then with it in, and then finally I put some EQ in. I probably should move this actually to the top here, taking out some of the harsher sections I thought, and then boosting the highs. So without anything. It just makes it very lush and dreamy. And then for the actual sound I'm using, again, going back to the awesome Serum preset pack by Synth Control, using the Pluck Grammys from the Synth Pop pack. So hey, I guess if you want to win a Grammy, you want to use this Pluck in your track. By the way, I forgot to mention, be sure to use code OAA20 at checkout when you buy a preset pack from Synth Control, as that will get you 20% off. And then the only other thing I did here was I added another pluck from the Synth Pop preset pack by Synth Control, just copying the same pattern, just add a little extra layer. I like to add extra layers in the final chorus here, just so it sounds different and bigger, more climactic. Makes it sound a lot wider and it fills up the space more. And that brings me to leads, and I used a bunch of Synth Control's leads here from his Synth Pop pack. I got this lead stack here, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different leads. I just kind of kept adding layers and layers, and then some are panned here, so we'll listen to this. Got the lead chip tune here. That's only coming in every once in a while. I add a little like portamento gliding kind of stabs, which I thought was kind of cool. Now this is actually not from Synth Control. This is actually an Element lead here from Wave's Element 2. This is another cool synth here. It's kind of more of a sawtooth type of sound here. Then a couple more of Synth Control sounds here. Some more kind of portamento gliding type leads here on the peripherals on the left and the right. That's what made it a fun, shimmering, more modern, popish type of sound, almost like Owl City-ish. And then I layered that with this pluck here, Dreaming, from the Synth Control's preset pack. And I still wanted more. And so I used Synthtronic's Mothra Returns lead again from the DX7 emulation in here. Just add some, like, it's like circling around your head, just some movement. So all together. Pretty cool. And for creating this melody here, look at this. Just kind of played back and forth between C and other notes, as you can see here again. Just kind of following what we have here in the chords. So this is kind of a good tip for writing melodies, is using notes that are in the chords. As you can see, C goes all the way through here, every single chord in this progression. So that was kind of my foundation that I built around here. And then I kind of bumped it up an octave here. Again, C is the foundation here. And then I'm just bouncing around C, playing some other notes. Again, we got C here. And then this is a cool trick here, especially when you have that portamento on, or the glide on your instrument here. Let me turn off this one so we can hear it. So here's Serum. So we can see portamento right here. It's on a little bit. So let's see if we can hear that. Actually, I don't think this is the main one using the portamento, but it is cool. It just sounds more realistic when you have like stuff overlapping here. So if we go to Synthtronic, I believe this does have portamento on. Yeah, portamento right here. It's that like gliding sound. So what that means is it's like, instead of just, if you hit one note and then you hit another note, instead of just that first note stops and then it jumps, you know, leaps up to that next note, it like glides up, like slides up over the other notes to get to that next note, if that makes sense. So it just makes it sound a little bit different, because like repeating the same pattern, sort of. And so it just adds a little bit of variational interest, makes it sound a little bit more realistic. And this actually was a mistake, because I played this on my MIDI keyboard and I accidentally hit two notes at the same time, but it sounded cool, so I left it in. And I'm not using any effects on like any of these except for the lead stack here. I've got, again, some magma tubes, adding quite a bit of drive here, trying to add some edginess to those, and then some reverb. And then I've also have some bit crushing across all the leads, but this is only, I believe this is only, I'm automating this in only during the bridge. Same thing here, and then the bridge, we got this new melody here, kind of playing in the background behind the vocals. Just kind of gradually just working my way up the scale here. And there's that bit crushing there at the end. And so that's pretty much it for the leads. Pretty simple. And effects. You know, with me, no song is complete unless we got lots of cool effects in here. And then, so over here, I've got some Rain and Nightmare Train. I'm going to pan these. And these are free from Yuhi's Triple Cheese. Pretty cool looking synth here. That's also free, so that's nice. And then we got some other effects in here. This is from Town Noisemaker, which is also free. I like these. Have a lot. These free plugins have a lot of cool like retro effects. And this I'm automating the bit crushing as well. So this is kind of a lot of ways you can use bit crushing. So basically it's increasing tension and then it drops. And I don't know what this is. Okay, it's a little white noise, and I got this little like video gamey type sound effects over here. Just to add with that innocent candy cassettes type vibe. Another one there, transitioning, just kind of like filling them in the transitions between the different sections, like the pre-chorus and chorus, chorus to the verse, verse to pre-chorus. There's that bit crushing. So I forgot to put that in with the first one, but it's over here in the second one. Just so things don't sound copy and pasted, they sound a little different. And then transition into the bridge is very stark. It's very, things change a lot, so I wanted to put like a big sound here. Kind of like a cyberpunky crash sound. And same thing from out of the bridge to the final chorus. Just put like a tank, single huge cannon shot. And then I put a bunch of cassette sounds in here, tape cassette sounds. I'm probably gonna want to pan these over time, so it's like creating movement, because the lyric is talking about candy cassettes play in my mind, rewind, let's go back in time. So that's what these are in here. So actually I'll go ahead and unmute the vocals here. Candy cassettes play in my mind, rewind, let's go. So that's it for the effects. So then that takes us to the vocals here and the lyrics. Lyric-wise, I tried to kind of just fit the theme and kind of make it a nostalgic type of song, but also not about dwelling in the past, but looking to the future. And these are very much unfinished vocals, but I can show you like what I did effects-wise. They still need to be cleaned up. They still need to be tuned, denoised, and all that kind of stuff. But I can show you a kind of just arrangement, what I'm doing arrangement-wise, and also just effects-wise, like preset chain-wise. So first off, I'm using some EQ here, using the SSL channel here. Just using some EQ, some boosting the highs here, boosting about 4.5, boosting about 1.5. Then we got some CLA 76, some 1176 compression. So if you have one of these, like Waves has, or Logic has a free 1176 plugin that you can use, but I just happen to use the one by Waves. Since I like their sound, I'm familiar with those. Just some de-essing, then some saturation, and then finally a limiter just to keep those peaks down. And so then arrangement-wise, a big thing with like 80s music and synth pop was a lot of layers. I probably, if I had more time, I would have used more layers. But I did get some layers in here. So I got 3 layered tracks for the main vocal here. So this is just the same part sang 3 times. And then one's panned left, one's panned right, one goes down the center. So it makes a big wide sounding vocal. I'll show you what that sounds like in a second. And then I created a bunch of background vocals here. You can see all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are harmonies as well. I think these are like, I think I'm singing like up an octave maybe for one, and then I think these are all just different harmonies. And I'm just coming in intermittently, like emphasizing certain words, not like singing all the way through, just to emphasize the kind of the bouncy nature of the chorus. So we'll go ahead and hear this with everything playing. So it needs lots of work, needs lots of volume, automation, and so on. So that might be a separate video, but you can get the arrangement idea that we have going on here. So I'll just solo the background vocals so you can kind of hear what they're doing. And these sound a little grittier because I've got some vocal synth on here, so it's adding some polyvox, some formants to it, more saturation. And then I had my horrible attempt at rapping. I got a friend who is pretty good at rap, so I'm thinking maybe having him record this, but I can show you what I did here. So bridge, again, we got different layers here for the singing part, and then we got the rap down here. And I'm using, the main things I'm using is like vocal synth here, so I'm adding like a vocoder effect, some polyvox as well. This is by Isotope, really cool plugin. I'll have this linked as well in the description. All plugins linked in the description. And then also Vocal Bender by Waves to kind of make it sound a little deeper, basically to try and hide how bad my vocal sounds. And then just a bunch of compression on here, some EQ, and using some like console saturation to make it sound grittier, some reverb, a limiter, and then I'm also using the Greg Wells voice centric. This is really nice. Add more compression, reverb, and doubling. Anyway, we'll hear this bridge section now.
We had candy coated dreams in our eyes, sugar coated fantasies in the skies. Now we struggle not to capsize. Tell us that you're checking me, action rise. So smooth like an inline tape, dripping nostalgia, no need to escape from the cassette decks to the VH tapes. We bring the heat, no time for breaks. 7 8 dreams with the renegade, days and nights we'll never fade. In this retro realm, we make our own arcade, and this your magic that will never fade.
And I've got a couple other words that are being emphasized here at a higher octave. Definitely still need to clean this up because the vocals are definitely not very clear because of that vocal bender thing.
Flow so smooth like an analog tape, dripping nostalgia, no need to escape from the cassette decks to the. Flow so smooth like an analog tape, dripping nostalgia, no need to escape from the cassette decks to the VH tapes. We bring the heat, no time for breaks. 7 8 dreams with the renegades, days and nights we'll never fade. In this retro realm, we make our own arcade, and this your magic that will never fade.
The one cool thing I did do was automating the formant here in Vocal Bender. So I'm kind of having it pitch downward and upward at certain parts. You can hear that here.
Renegades, days and
Renegades. And then laser nights.
renegades, days and nights we'll never fade. In this never fade.
And then this vocal is too quiet. So again, volume automation is needed since it doesn't have the benefit of any layers. Then I added some screaming vocals in here too, in my attempt at screaming. So I went all over the place with this track, kind of trying to implement everything, but those are not properly mixed yet. So I'm just going to turn these down then.
Never fade. Candy glasses playing in my mind. Rewind, let's go back in time. Where the rhythm takes me to a sweet escape. No, you don't. No, you don't ever stop the tape. Candy glasses playing in my mind. Rewind, let's go back in time. Where the rhythm takes me to a sweet escape. No, you don't. No, you don't ever stop the tape.
And I was trying to add some like an extra like ad-libbed version of the final chorus there, so I'm not singing it exactly the same. I probably need to re-record that a couple times, but you kind of get the idea. This is more of an arrangement overview versus like a final polished mix. And then we've got the outro lead here, and I'm copying the lead from the bridge for the final chorus here, so we can hear that more clearly now. If you found this helpful, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know what element of this song would you like me to go more in depth on, or is there something you want me to explain in more detail? Just let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, be sure to check out Synth Control and his awesome Serum preset packs. I didn't even have or own Serum until I found Synth Control, and I'm like, these presets are so amazing. I'm gonna go buy Serum just so I can use them. So anyway, he'll be linked in the description. With that, let's listen to the full result here. Please don't kill me, since it is not a final product by any means.
It's falling apart, yeah, right from the start. Tell me you'll come through, bring me breakthrough. Any day is good, back to childhood is how my faith will be. Overtake me.
And that is Candy Cassettes. If you want some free drum samples for creating retro electronic music, just click in the description below. Otherwise, if you want more tips on how to create retro electronic music from home, then click my video playing on the screen right now. Otherwise, have an awesome day, keep creating, and always be adventuring.